Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Uh, Welcome. We are seeing the fourth, 14th chapter in which Krishna addresses the gunas. I mean, it begins by exposing the fact that we are a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti means the energies. The energy means the subtle elements, and then all the properties and attributes that explode from there. So, but it's the easiest way to understand the nature of our personality or human construct is staying at the guna level, because the guna level makes it easier for us to see why we have certain tendencies and we behave in certain ways, and we like things we like, we dislike others, and so on. So we can understand that from the most fundamental, basic level, which the level of the three energies. So there is this concept we have seen yesterday that during pralaya, before the origination of the universe, the gunas are in total equilibrium, and then comes Maya somehow waking up, and then having all the gunas, all the energies waking up with him, and then the equilibrium, so to speak, of the energies that were just resting uh, as the ocean of Brahman without any ripple, so to speak, and then the ocean start modifying again, and then we start having more and more namarupas, no? So he says, as if the proportions of the gunas are no longer in equilibrium, the gunas, the equilibrium was disturbed, and then the proportions are going to be changing, and so on. So we know that everything in this creation has the three gunas, and everything and everyone is a mixture, even Ishwara. So I mentioned about that yesterday. And then the question is, okay, so about why I need to know about the gunas is, as there is an expression saying, because the gunas are the building blocks of the creation and the building blocks of our own physical and subtle body, our body mind. So it's all built from these invisible three energies. So I need to understand a little bit of these building blocks to understand a little bit better my construct and the tendencies, propensities, and of my body mind, and in which way these energies somehow bind me to samsara. So we have seen that Sattva makes a person an intellectual, interest in knowledge, let's say, wanting to know more. And yesterday I made a subtle distinction between wanting to know more in the world of the phenomenal object, or wanting to know more in regards to the nature of reality. So the distinction I made is that both are predominance of sattva guna, but then behind the sattva guna there is also a variation of raja guna, somehow holding the sattva guna, because sattva guna without raja guna does not accomplish anything in terms of objective knowledge, and much less in terms of the subject nature of the seeker. So we need to have both energies. And some say we need to have tamoguna not to lose objectivity and contact with reality, the ground, where I'm standing and so on. So that I don't trip too much. So the organs of knowledge and experience are more active in the Raja Pradhanam, and the organs of action are more active in the Raja Pradhana, and and so in the case of Sattva Guna, the organs of action, organs of knowledge, so it's going to define the nature of the jiva. And then it says as well that some if the person uh, is pre I say predetermined, and it seems like I forgot the name. So if the person is under the influence of too much tamaguna, then Swami says here the person is going to be lazy, it's going to procrastinate a lot and does not to know, do not want to know anything or do anything. It's just like sitting on one's energy. And then he says that the individual, the tamoguna has suppressed rajoguna and tamoguna. So there is a passage, he says, the more you dig into understanding the nature of the gunas, the more you understand that tamoguna predominance is the word I was looking for. Predominance means suppression of sattva guna and rajoguna. So this is one way to see, and he must have a point because he has been studying these things deeply. Another way to look at it is that so Sattva Guna is the ground, okay, in which knowledge is possible, is the energy which allows us clarity and extraction of knowledge from what we contact through the five senses and the mind. So Sattva Guna is more like the ground, the energy that allows us to illumine and our transaction and try to understand what we want and what we want to know, what we want to do, and so on. So we have Sattva Guna more like a background, and then we have Rajoguna and Tamaguna. So Tamaguna is the most rudimentary kind of form of energy that brings about the physical inert world. So we have everything that is a chetana, not sentient, is dominated by a lot of tamoguna. So the process of evolution, let's say spiritual evolution, depends on the conversion of tamoguna into rajoguna, okay? And then the individual is motivated to do something. And before it was like depressed, I don't want to do anything. Now it's motivated to do anything. Oh, okay, let's get rich, let's make money. Great. It's a much better situation than being dominated by tamoguna. Okay, now you have some energy at your disposal to get rich. Or if you somehow understand that get rich is not the solution, so the same Rajaguna is going to allow you to change your approach and try to seek more understanding in less money or prosperity. So we need to see the evolution of the individual soul from tamoguna predominance, which after certain conversion, the individual becomes more rajasic, because without rajoguna, the potential for evolution, for accomplishing things, for improvement or betterment is not possible because you have no energy, not even for the sake of implementing improvement in yourself, in your life or anything. So we need to have Rajoguna. Therefore, it goes from the most rudimentary expression of prakriti into the energy that allows activities in all sense, in the entire universe. And we see in ourselves, we have our pranamaya kosha, which is all the pranas that somehow actively keeping us alive and supporting us, waiting for the commands of the mind. And the mind, if it's more tamasic, it's going to say, "Oh, just wait. You do your job, keep my digestion going, and so on. But let's wait." And then later on, the person say, "No, let's do something. Let's go into the world and try to accomplish something." And then development of Rajoguna begins accelerating. And then you cannot convert Tamaguna into Sattvaguna as we know, as we hear, and as we have studied in the past. So it has to pass by the development of Rajoguna. So now I have enough Rajoguna to be converted into Sattvaguna. Okay. So everything comes from Sattvaguna, but in the physical material world, the predominance is Tamoguna. Evolution is the increment of Rajoguna first, and then later on, a certain conversion of this Rajoguna into Sattvaguna. Okay. So what is Tamoguna? Tamoguna is a very basic rudimentary expression of the three gunas manifest as physical material universe, which includes our physical body. And then we say, my physical body is more tamasic this week. I got ill or this or that. And my mind is more tamasic because the body mind is a well integrated organism, you know. So it's all about these three energies. And somehow I like to see it more in terms of conversions, of proportions, you know, from Tamoguna, Rajoguna, from Rajoguna to Sattvaguna. But we will see here that it changes all the time. In this moment, I'm more Rajasic. Next moment, I'm more Tamasic. And Sattvaguna comes, and then I get clear in my mind and so on. So things are changing all the time. And the goal here is not to identify with the gunas or with which whatsoever guna predominates my personality, because according to the predominance of the gunas, I'm going to have certain demands, certain desires for such as association with people of the same kind of predominance, an environment which is favorable for my predominance, you know, and that is binding, or even states of samadhi, you know, which is a wonderful association with a certain mental state. I want that. So that is often referred as to be bound or stuck in sattva guna, in the sense that sattva guna is not being used to our best possible interest. But Sattva Guna is being used to bind me to a certain experience of bliss. No? And bliss is not the end, bliss is not the purpose. Bliss is just a byproduct of a sattvic mind, which is reflecting something which is inherently belongs to the self, which is its fullness, its completion, its satisfaction. So that to say that all of these gunas will bind us. The personality of the individual, howsoever predominance or proportion of the gunas dominating our personality is going to bound the individual to the gunas. That to say that the only way out is to transcend or to leave behind the identification with our guna construct or guna predominance personality, you know, to own our true nature, which is guna tirtha, beyond or before the gunas. Okay, so we want to be nirguna, guna tirtha. We want to identify with our true nature, which is free from the gunas. But our inferior nature is going to interact with the world according to its predominance, its proportions. You know, the character of the individual is all based on these three building blocks of everything, including our body, mind, sense complex. So, Tattvaguna is Yana Pradhana, Rajoguna Kama Pradhana, personality more active, personality more contemplative. Tamoguna is to be a personality which is just not into action, not into knowledge, but just like how you say, it's a dreams, awaking dreamer. Yeah, it's very common to the Tamo Guna personality that people they don't have energy to engage life in a proper way, following the rules of the games and so on. And it does not have much sattva guna to compel the person to search for knowledge. Okay, so I don't want knowledge. I don't want to accomplish anything in this world in material terms. So, and what is this person going to do? The mind is still there with certain expressions, and it's going to daydream. It's going to just like living in this imagining kind of condition without have energy to pursue whatsoever desire is in there. More often than not, these people become politicians. They want to accomplish so much. They are so ambitious, they are so greedy, and they don't want to play by the rules because they are tamasic, so to speak. And then they go and become politicians, and then they violate the Dharma and they accomplish all the material gains that they dream about. I mean, the person remains quite some time in a tamasic state before becoming a politician. I'm playing with, joking about, but fundamentally, the desires are there in the mind of a tamasic person, and then not having the energy to go there and seek it, search for it, you know, and chasing it. It just say like, well, if I manage to break into one of these websites and steal $1 billion, and then I'm good to go. When a person is yana pradana, generally the person is turned inwards. The mind seeks knowledge. It is intellectually active rather than physically active. Intellectually active is going to enjoy analyzing things, thinking, hypothesizing, theorizing. So intellectuals live in their own world of notions, concepts, and potentials for discoveries and so on. They lose contact with their surrounding. They are here, in the world of potential knowledge and so on. So they are into that. And they are nivriti pradana, okay? It's inwardly turned, turning inwards or withdrawing from the world. So in nivriti personality and pavriti personality. Pavriti is extroverted and moving in the direction of worldly accomplishments because the person is rajasic, but it is therefore pravriti. Extrovert, the person will be highly turned outwards. One is inward, another is outward. Therefore, this is therefore this is
Linda, your microphone's on. Your microphone's off, sorry.
Thank you. So one is extroverted, one is introverted, and the other is somehow frozen, stuck, just daydreaming and not doing anything and not accomplish, try to get knowledge. Some place a joke say every time we go for a Vedanta camp, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, somewhere they have encampments with tents and so on. Now you find that one person would love to be inside of the room, the other people would love to go outside to socialize, meet, talk, inquire, all kinds of things. It reminds of my times of satsang that once we would come out of the satsang hall, people would immediately begin with chit-chatting. And I couldn't quite understand why, because coming out of the satsang hall, many times I would prefer to stay there. When I come out, I want to be. I managed to pass to change to the other provider. Let's hope it's gonna be okay. Unusual because we have good weather here. So one wants to associate all the time. The other wants to stay quiet in its place. Therefore, some people like to live in the city, in the town, where there are more activities. Some people like to live in the countryside, where there is less activity. A Sangha association. Uh, there are some difference between this Rajoguna and Tamoguna, and the next difference that a thinking mind would naturally love a certain setup. So a contemplative mind, has his jnana indriyas activated. It does not like to associate, like to stay quiet and contemplating, studying, likes the books, uh, likes to think of their own ideas and notions, having new insights, and so on. And another difference is that sattvic mind uh, not only likes knowledge, but likes to have an environment which is supportive, conducive for knowledge, for meditation, contemplation, studies, libraries and whatever. I want to live in a library for the intellectuals, extroverted intellectuals, Therefore, it's going to love a certain environment. I mean, as far as Sattva Guna manifests as spiritually as the desire for deep meditation or meditation. It needs silence. It needs an environment with the least possible uh, activities and noises and so on, So it will like an environment which is tranquil, quiet, nisa, bata, whatever the silence, whereas the silence is potent for the Rajasic mind. So he's comparing both. So what is heaven to a sattvic person, to be in an environment like that, very silent. It can be like a dead silence, such as the one of graveyard, For a Rajasic person, the Rajasic person suffers an environment where there are no outlets for activity and interact, because the mind is not vibrating in the same with length or frequency of energy with nature or silence and so on. It's all a question of find resonance with the other or with your environment. So a Rajasic mind will have a lot of trouble to resonate with nature because in nature, usually there is harmony. There is an environment which is not going to fit our needs for activities, interactions, and so on. So a Rajasic person needs to have activities and associations, or if it's alone home, it's going to turn the TV or turn the internet, cannot stand just silence. Now we have the telephones that once upon a time, Sundari said that she's a weapon of mass distraction. I don't know if you guys remember. Huh? So it is the nature of our times. This Kali Yuga with a lot of scientific, technological developments that we are never just doing nothing. You know, when you see that they're having nothing, you get your telephone and you start doing something virtually. Tamaguna is the opposite in regards to Rajoguna. Instead of want activity, you want inactivity. Again, Swami brings the concept that it suppresses Rajoguna. It eats up Rajoguna, okay, or suppress Rajoguna. And Sattva guna is there, but then we have Rajas and Tamas, which predominates the human personality, the human construct. Sattva guna is always there, Raja guna and Tama guna, you know, and then when you have more Raja guna, you are very active. When you have less Raja guna, you're going to be a little bit more lazy. But the purpose here is not to eat up Rajoguna to produce Tamaguna, but to give space, give a room for Sattva Guna to emerge, okay? Because you need to eat up some Rajoguna, so to speak. You know, if you're too Rajasic, you need to somehow suppress or eat up, consume this Tamaguna by going about interacting with the world, being active, and so on. And then you have a more balanced construct between Rajoguna and Tamaguna. And then later on, one may feel like, okay, so, but I feel much better about myself and the world now that I'm active, but yet I'm not find, true satisfaction and peace. So I heard that there is a third possibility, which is sattva pradhana, personality. And how I do that? Cultivating and developing more sattva guna. So, and as we know, I have to have raja guna at my disposal to convert itself, Rajoguna, into Sattva Guna. Okay, the mind is extrovert, but I have Rajoguna. I understood that this extroversion of the mind is wanting to do things, you know, now needs to be converted into a desire to contemplate, understand, and know certain things. You want more wisdom and less worldly accomplishments. So we need to find a way to convert that Rajasic tendency or transform that into a tendency to study, contemplate, and know, you know. Like Ramji used to say, you need to convert your desire to do things and experience into a desire to know things, to understand things, you know. But the point here that all the three gunas cause bondage in different ways. The mind gets attached to or the setup that allows me to express myself to the best according to my guna predominance. So I need to have to be in New York doing New York I say stock broker markets, you know, a very active kind of things used to be before AI was doing everything by itself. But in a very, very dynamic, active environment, a very extremely rajas person feels, you know, feels at ease, you know, totally at ease. Yeah, this is my piece of cake. This is my beach, you know, my piece of cake, my tea, cup of tea, and so on. I'm happy like that because there is resonance between my guna personality and the environment. So a sattvic person, of course, feels a little bit disturbed being in that environment, and it's understandable. uh, It's understandable. When if I have to go to a very, very busy kind of big city, such as São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and have to go around, so the first feeling is like, oh, phew, I don't like it. Let me go through this and get out of the here. The sooner the better, because there is no resonance. I like to keep in peace and quiet, and here there are energies that do not conform with the my sattva guna nature. Huh? So even a sattvic mind, if it does not find its proper environment, it's going to be upset. It's dukkha nishrita condition, so it's going to suffer. It's going to be upset. As long as the setup is favorable to me, a sattvic mind is going to enjoy itself. But if the environment is not favorable or in harmony with my guna construct, I'm going to experience dukkha. In fact, many people after studying Vedanta, they would like to spend more time in studying meditation at home, and they complain, Swami, there are so many disturbances home, children and this and that, many sounds. India is very noisy as well. Everything is going to get the person irritated. Even the lizard saying ki 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 disturbs and irritates the person. So a sattvic personality is going to be bound by a certain desire for the environment, which mostly fits my guna personality. No? And the problem is that we can't control our environment. No, there is very little. I mean, we can somehow, depending on our karmic conditions, say, no, I'm done with all of this, and I'm going to live close to nature in a more quiet setup. So you can do that. But the karma should be favorable, and there is time for transition. And then, like myself, if 15 years ago I was killing myself in a busy restaurant, now I'm just here in nature trying to live a quiet life. So it is possible to make modification. But again, if I would have come to a quiet environment, because my mind is more sattvic right now, and if I would be dependable on this environment, and then that represents another problem because tomorrow something happens, I may lose my property, this and that, and I may need to live in another place, and then I'm gonna suffer. So if you're gonna suffer, it means you are bound by your guna nature, and you're not free from the gunas. If you're not free from the gunas, you're not free at all. So you need to find a way of be satisfied, even if the environment is not in resonance with your guna personality, your guna nature. So it's okay. Yeah, I know that it's not the best environment for me to enjoy myself, but I got the knowledge and I have forbearance. I can accept things as they are because as Swamiji often says, it's like you cannot change your setup, but you can transform your mindset so that you can deal with setups when the setup becomes adverse to your guna nature. So you have the strength to deal with it without complaining like people complain to Swamiji. Oh, I'm so sattvic, but I cannot handle anymore. I read a book of J. Krishnamurti about 30 years, 25, 30 years ago, in which not J, it's not J, but G. Krishna. I say, The one who wrote the book Mind is Your Enemy, not the famous Krishnamurti, but the other one.
UG,
Yeah,
UG,
yeah, UG Krishnamurti. Yeah. So he was saying that he was like the J. Krishnamurti. He was being set up to be a spiritual leader, and everybody somehow, because of the astrology or this and the stars, they say, no, this is the guy who is going to take over our society and so on. But he was saying things that he was not liking. One time he saw one of these high priests or leaders coming out of his meditation room and beating up very badly some children because they are playing and making noise and disturbing the silence of its meditation. So U.G. Krishnamurti, when he saw that, he said, "Oh no, no, this is not for me. There is something very wrong about that." And then from there on, he kind of, that was a final thing that made him walk away from everything and be very critical that there was something wrong about that structure. So a Rajasic minds, in the same way, is going to hate silence, quietude. If the people around him, if people around them are very quiet and silent and peaceful, he's going to do or she's going to do anything to disturb the other, How dare you, Why you're so peaceful, playing as if you were a Mahatma and so on. And then it's very common, the other goes and start trying to provoke the other because, I want to have some conflict, some arguments here, I want to poke you so that we can play the game here. So the Rajasic cannot be quiet, cannot face silence. So the mind also will face a certain dukkha because as long as it's able to have it set up, it's fine. But when the setup changes and the environment is too quiet for him or her, the mind is going to suffer as well. That is the Rajasic. And Tamasic mind is going to suffer in any case. A Tamasic mind is the worst possible condition. It suffers when the environment is too active, okay? And because it does not like activity, and when the environment is too sattvic, conducive for study of the scriptures and study of science and deep meditation, it's also going to suffer. And it suffers in its own proper environment because a person, a tamasic person living in a tamasic environment is never happy. There is something about these gunas here and there. It is said that a rajasic person experience more dukkha than a tamasic because a rajasic person is engaged in the world and going for it, and therefore experience success and failures and ups and downs, peaks and valleys, highs and depressions. So a rajasic person is subject to more uh, peaks of dukkha. A tamasic person lives never a profound crash, but it's the chronically depressed, which is a horrible condition. It does not have those peaks of excitements, of accomplishment, success. It does not have the crash of big loss and depression. It's there in between, suffering a kind of chronic depression. Uh, Therefore, tamasic personality is the worst possible, meaning to say, in terms of our spiritual development. And we need to understand as well that some people like myself when I was very young. I did not know the gunas or any of this, but I used to make a confusion. Uh, I walked away from the big city of Rio de Janeiro. I want to live more peaceful life and so on. And then at the mountains there around Rio de Janeiro, there were some small towns that were very popular for hippies, so to speak, or alternative people like myself. And then there were a lot of local people. The local people, they looked so peaceful. And I used to have great admiration to them because they would take a small tool seat and put it outside of the doors and just keep looking who's passing and the dogs and the cars, and they looked very peaceful. And I used to think that they were very blissful, but they are not blissful, okay? They are just flat. They are just not experience either bliss or sorrow. So they are just there, tamasic, flat, not experience anything. And it took me a while to understand, because one time I went to a place and I saw these local people who looked so nice, smiley, and say good morning, good evening. Everybody on those days used to say good afternoon and blah 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 with a smile. And then I saw them doing some cruel, violent things with one another out of the blue, you know. And I say, wow, these people, they are not what I was imagining them to be. We have to understand that a sattvic person may look like lazy and tamasic, but it's not. And the tamasic person may look like sattvic because it's not engaging activities and it's not engaging knowledge, but it's not contemplating the nature of the self or the nature of the I. It's just like living almost like an animal. So yeah, it's if we're not careful, we may take some of those sadhus in production road around uh, Arunachala in Tiruvannamalai. They sit on the ground and they stay lying or sitting. And the most, when they have enough energy, they sit up when they know that the lunch is coming. Otherwise, they just lean and they kind of laying down. And we see, wow, they are really sattvic people. No, they are extremely tamasic in most cases. So, and then you see other sadhus that are real sattvic, but it's difficult to make up the difference because only the people themselves, know their state, if they are flat or if they are just in profound contemplation or gratitude or meditation. So the point is that the gunas are going to make us bound to the environment, which is in harmony with our guna nature. And it's going to cause binding vasanas, desires, demands. Therefore, the person is bound in either way. Tamasic person is going to be bound into a tamasic environment, a sattvic into a sattvic environment, and a rajasic person bound to a rajasic environment. So bound, 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 that's the problem. Whenever we have identified with our guna nature, we are bound. Why? Because our mind, our body mind, our desires are going to be more of the nature of rajasic desires, or my desires are going to be uh, construct around tamasic desires, which are desires to do nothing. And yet I want to get things my way, if possible. And sattvic mind, I still have desire for silence, for samadhi, for environmental. So the nature of the desires, they are going to be colored by the gunas, and the guna predominating our personality is going to color the nature of my desires. And the problem here is desire. No matter if my desires are more of the rajasic or tamasic or sattvic nature, desire binds the person. You understand? So if we identified with our saguna nature, we're gonna be living under the dictation of our desires, because our prakriti nature is nothing but a bag full of vasanas, desires of different things, you know. It's just categorizing desires on three levels, you know. Desires which by nature are more tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic. But desire is a desire. It binds you if it's a binding desire. And it's very common that a desire becomes a binding desire. Ah, but a sattvic desire should not bind. It does bind. You need to go beyond desires in a way that, or at least desire things which are not bind. You know, you can come to a point in your life and says, you know, I have a desire for a quiet environment in nature and so on. But it's not a binding desire. What is a binding desire? Is desire something without which I suffer the hell, you know? I suffer like hell. So one may say, no, I have a desire. I don't hurt anybody with this desire and so on. But the point is that desire, binding desire. So there is a saying that says so. Krishna says, I have desire, yes, but I am desire which is not bind, and it's not in violation of Dharma, never in violation of Dharma, always in harmony with Dharma. So desires that are in total harmony with the structure of the Dharma. And on top of that, they are not binding desires, you know. So Shimaya had the desire to come down from the mountains to the valley to spread the words of Vedanta. He was not hurting anybody doing that. And if you look into his life, there are some passages that he spoke to his guru at the time, which is Swami. It's going to escape my mind today because my mind is a bit weak today. I woke up tired today.
Swami Chinmayananda.
Huh? No,
Chinmaya.
Bhatovan. Thank you.
Oh, Tapovan. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So Swami Bhatovan told him, like, don't go down there. You're going to be caught up in karma, and karma is a problem. It brings about results and so on. Stay at the peaks here, you know. And he went against the request or suggestion of his guru. He came down the hills, and he says in a certain passage, you know, I go there. This is my desire. It's a good desire, and if I succeed, good. If I don't succeed, it's as good as, you know, if I fail. So it's a different approach, you know. I follow, but my peace and satisfaction is not linked to the success or failure of this endeavor. The point is we should never be dependent upon the outcome. If I'm dependent, I have a binding desire, and then pain will be there because it's impossible to succeed all the time. All the people who have this kind of atupura, edukam mishritattvam. I tried to see the meaning of this, but I couldn't find using the Google. Did you look into this?
Dissatisfaction. The atruptikaratram. That means dissatisfaction.
Yeah, and mishritattvam.
That is mixture. So a mixture with suffering.
Yeah, there is a dukkha which is a mixture of pleasure and pain, let's say. So this condition is common to whatsoever predominance we have in our personality. Swami keeps unfolding more, repeating himself. Hunger for knowledge. Without knowledge, the person feels limited. This is another angle, A sattvic person has the desire for knowledge. And Vedanta comes and says, so if you're sattvic and you want to have more and more knowledge, know that howsoever more knowledge you may acquire, you're going to always feel incomplete. No amount of objective knowledge will make you feel satisfied. Okay? The more you're going to know, the more you're going to know your ignorance. It pushes the boundaries of your ignorance and so on. So the sattvic person which wants to remove the knowledge-wise limitation. So there is a certain, I know so little, but I know more, but I need to know more and more studies, more books, more sampradayas, more philosophies, and so on. So this kind of knowledge-wise meditation, in the words of Swami, is never going to be experienced by a rajasic person. Vedanta says so no amount of knowledge is going to remove this sense of limitation for the sattvic oriented person. But Vedanta also says there is only one knowledge that is going to solve this problem. That takes us again to that subtle distinction I presented yesterday, that you have sattvic mind, extrovert, and wanting more and more knowledge, until this mind becomes not only sattvic, but mature enough to understand that no matter how much knowledge, again, it's not going to solve my problem. Vedanta says the knowledge of the scriptures is the knowledge that's going to put an end to this sense of limitation in terms of what you know, because you're going to know that which once you know, you have know the nature of everything there is. Okay, you don't need to know the mind of Ishvara. It's impossible to know the mind of Ishvara, the omniscience of Ishvara, the pure knowledge of Ishvara. You're going to tap into some knowledge, but it's always subject to error, revision, and so on. So just forget about trying to be complete by accumulating more and more scientific knowledge or philosophical knowledge. But know that there is a knowledge that is going to put an end to this sense of limitation. A rajasic person will never feel this knowledge-wise, knowledge-based limitation. The sattvic person will have a sense of limitation. He says, "Oh, I know more today, but it's so little. I need more knowledge." It's almost as if unconsciously the person wants to become omniscient as Ishvara. And it's interesting, this passage here, because we see the accumulation of scientific knowledge being processed through these AI, these computers, and becoming these programs which gives us access to so much human knowledge, and without us having to think about this thing, the answer pops out very easily. So the people behind this development of AI, they have consciously the desire to become omniscient and dethrone God from its omniscience status and say, okay, now we're gonna be the omniscient here because we're gonna know more and better than God. There is no God. There is only, this artificial intelligence now. But to one's utter desperation and dismay, one finds out that any amount of knowledge he gathers, the limitation, knowledge or limitation will not go away. And then Swami says that, in fact, the more you know, the more you discover your ignorance. Before you knew almost nothing. Now you start tapping on some uh, studs here and there. So, oh, now start studying a little bit of computer, and then oh, I'm getting the base, and then you become aware that there is so much knowledge in terms of computing that I'm totally ignorant. So, in any field of knowledge, there is the saying that specialization that in the field of medicine, for example, is like to know more and more about less and less. So the body is subdivided, and people do not see the body as an organic, well integrated organism. And then it's going to study your nails, your hair, and this and that. So you're going to know very, very, very little, and your knowledge is not going to be a holistic knowledge. Whatever speciality in the medical field. So therefore, the proverb is, somebody said, the specialist is one who learns more and more about less and less. Human beings are never going to become omniscient, not even with the help of artificial intelligence, which is just a collection of everything which is known by human mind. But everything known by the human mind fed into the internet, fed in this computer, is very little knowledge and mixed up with a lot of bad knowledge as well. And has nothing to do with the supreme knowledge, the omniscience of Ishvara. This is called intellectual samsara. Okay, there is the material samsara, mundane samsara. I want things, I want power, I want status, prestige, and properties, and assets, and lots of money. So this is the material samsara, but then there is the spiritual samsara as well, which is, oh, I want to have some interdimensional travels, and I want to, have an experience in Brahma Loka. I want to have certain states of samadhi, some mystical experience, epiphanies. So all of that is samsara, a desire for things of the subtle world. So before I want things of the physical material nature of the world, now I want more on the subtle spiritual nature, but it's samsara. And then Swami presents a nice complex context concept saying that there is also the intellectual samsara. I'm trying to complete myself by what I get to know more and more and more, more money, more knowledge, more spiritual experience. This is all samsara. So what is a samsara? Not samsara is not to know, not wanting to know, accomplish anything of this world, but wishing to understand the true nature of the self is always ever full, whole, and complete, free from desires for completion. Okay? We meet again when?
Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. We meet on Friday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste.
Thank you.
Until next Friday.
This
Thank you.
coming Friday?
Yeah, this coming
When is your class? You're doing a seminar?
It's the end of the month. I will post it for you guys.
Okay, great.
And considering my condition, I'm not going to try to squeeze any sections, anyone about such things. that week.
Okay.
Okay.
Very
And
good.
Okay, thanks, Arlinda.
thank you, Mark. So as Mark says, buy now, buy here now.
Yeah, right.